You reach for your phone before you're even fully awake. A message. Someone, somewhere, wanted you to know something right now. For most of human history, that instinct existed too. The need never changed. Only the method did. For roughly 300,000 years, humans have needed to send word across distance. A warning, a location, a death, a birth. No towers, no wires, no satellites, just breath, sound, and a body willing to move. So how did they do it? Let's start with the voice, because the voice was always the first tool. In parts of West Africa, communities developed something remarkable: the talking drum. Drummers among the Yoruba and Ashanti peoples learned to compress human speech into rhythm and pitch. Many West African languages are tonal, meaning the same word can mean different things depending on the pitch it's spoken at. A skilled drummer could mimic those tonal patterns, essentially encoding sentences into beats. A message about a chief's death, a call to gather, a warning of approaching danger, all of it could travel village to village, drum to drum, faster than any runner could carry it on foot. Anthropologist John F. Carrington documented this system in the mid-20th century, studying drum languages in the Congo Basin. He found that experienced listeners could understand full phrases, not just simple codes. This wasn't primitive noise. It was structured language, translated into percussion. Around the same time, on the other side of the planet, a completely different solution emerged from geography itself. On the island of La Gomera, in the Canary Islands, steep ravines and deep valleys made walking between villages exhausting and slow. So the residents developed Silbo Gomero, a whistled version of Spanish. Every vowel and consonant gets mapped to a whistle, and a skilled whistler can carry a conversation across a valley up to 5 kilometers wide. The sound cuts through wind and distance in a way the human voice alone never could. Whistled languages weren't unique to the Canary Islands. Similar systems appeared independently in the mountains of Turkey, in parts of Mexico, and in Papua New Guinea. Different cultures, separated by oceans, arrived at the same solution. When you live somewhere sound travels farther than people can walk, you learn to speak in whistles. Now, picture something more urgent, not a conversation but an alarm. Smoke doesn't carry words, but it carries meaning. Along the Great Wall of China, ancient garrisons used smoke signals by day and fire beacons by night to warn of approaching enemies. A single tower would light its signal, and the next tower down the line would see it and light its own, relaying the warning across hundreds of kilometers in a matter of hours. Indigenous nations across North America used smoke signals in similar ways, varying the number and rhythm of smoke columns to indicate different messages, gathering points, danger, or safe passage. This is where the twist in this story actually lives. The common assumption is that before writing, communication was slow, local, and unreliable, that people mostly just didn't know things happening far away. But the Inca Empire says otherwise. The Inca had no written script in the way we think of writing. What they had instead was one of the most efficient long-distance communication networks in the ancient world, and it didn't rely on paper at all. Along more than 40,000 kilometers of mountain road, the Inca built a relay system of runners called chasqui. Spaced along the route were small stations, roughly every few kilometers, each staffed by a trained runner. A message, whether spoken or encoded, would be carried by one runner to the next station, handed off, and carried onward, exactly like a relay race, except the baton was information and the stakes were an empire. Historian and archaeologist Maria Rostvorovsky studied these systems extensively, showing how the chasqui network could move a message from Quito to Cusco, a distance of nearly 2,000 kilometers, in about a week, across the brutal terrain of the Andes, on foot. So the expected story of ancient communication as slow and disconnected simply doesn't hold up here. The Inca moved information faster over rougher terrain than most of Europe could move a letter by horse at the same point in history. And the messages the chasqui carried weren't only spoken. Sometimes they carried something physical, the quipu. A quipu is a series of knotted cords, dyed and arranged with intention. For years, scholars assumed quipu only recorded numbers, census data, tax records, inventory counts. But researcher Gary Urton has argued that some quipu likely encoded far more complex information, possibly even narrative content, using knot type, cord color, and spacing the way we might use letters and punctuation. The debate isn't fully settled. We still don't know exactly how much a quipu could say. Let's reconstruct a single day so you can picture what this actually looked like on the ground. A watchtower spots movement on the horizon. Enemy scouts, maybe 50 strong, moving toward a settlement 2 valleys away. There's no time to walk there. A drummer near the tower begins to play, and in a nearby village, someone recognizes the rhythm instantly. Danger, this direction, gather now. Meanwhile, a runner is already moving, carrying a knotted cord that will confirm troop numbers to a commander 3 stations down the line. By the time the sun sets, a warning that started as sound and rhythm has crossed a distance that would take a single walker 3 days to cover on foot. It crossed it in hours. None of this required electricity. None of it required paper. It required trained bodies, disciplined systems, and a society that decided long-distance communication was worth investing in. Here's the full picture. Roughly 300,000 years ago, humans first had the need to signal across distance. By the time complex societies formed, that need turned into infrastructure. Talking drums encoded speech into rhythm across West and Central Africa. Whistled languages like Silbo Gomero carried full conversations across valleys in the Canary Islands and beyond. Along the Great Wall of China, smoke and fire beacons relayed warnings across hundreds of kilometers and hours. And the Inca chasqui system, studied by researchers like Maria Rostworowski and Gary Urton, moved messages nearly 2,000 kilometers across the Andes in about a week, using nothing but trained runners and knotted cords. You still do a version of this every day. When you send a text, you're not doing something new. You're doing something ancient. Dressed in different clothes, the urge to reach someone who isn't standing in front of you, that's not a modern habit. That's a 300,000-year-old instinct, and it never actually changed. You reach for your phone before you're even fully awake. Somewhere behind that motion is a chasqui running through the Andes, a drummer in a West African village, a whistle cutting across a valley in Spain. You're not inventing a new need. You're just the latest one carrying it forward.